On the morning of August 6, 1945, more than 300,000 civilians in the city of Hiroshima were waking up and beginning their daily morning routines. Then came a silent, blinding flash of light. In a fraction of a second, temperatures spiked to several thousand degrees Celsius. Concrete and steel were vaporized. It took exactly 43 seconds from the moment the payload was released for an entire city to disappear. This destruction was calculated and deliberate. It served as the endpoint of a secretive, frantic race to force a conclusion to 6 years of global slaughter. By early 1945, Allied forces had secured Europe. Nazi Germany had collapsed. In the Pacific, the Japanese military was steadily losing ground, yet leadership fiercely refused to surrender. American leadership faced a grim calculation. A direct amphibious assault on mainland Japan meant hundreds of thousands of projected casualties on both sides. But in the deserts of New Mexico, thousands of scientists were assembling an alternative, a top-secret initiative called the Manhattan Project. Physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer directed the massive scientific effort. The goal was to build a weapon powered by nuclear fission. Instead of relying on chemical combustion, this device released massive amounts of energy by physically splitting an atom. The resulting chain reaction produced an explosive yield exponentially greater than any conventional bomb ever built. On July 16, 1945, the first successful test proved the theory was horrifyingly real. With this capability now in hand, the strategic problem of winning the war became a massive existential choice. On the morning of August 6th, the American B-29 bomber Enola Gay approached Japanese airspace carrying a single weapon. It was nicknamed Little Boy. Planners selected Hiroshima. As an active military and industrial center that had largely escaped previous bombing raids, the city offered a pristine canvas to accurately measure the weapon's destructive capability. At approximately 8:15 a.m., the bomb exploded above the city. Massive shockwaves flattened the dense urban infrastructure. Fires erupted simultaneously across multiple wards, and tens of thousands of civilians died instantly. A bustling metropolis was completely erased by a single piece of scientific hardware. Those who survived the initial blast wandered through unrecognizable streets. Hospitals were reduced to ash, and medical supplies simply didn't exist. Then, people who appeared totally unharmed began developing high fevers, bleeding, and severe internal illness. They were being poisoned by radiation. Despite the total obliteration of a major city, the Japanese high command remained gridlocked. Some military leaders pushed to continue fighting. No surrender was issued. 2 days later, on August 8th, the Soviet Union formally declared war on Japan, launching a massive offensive across Asia. Facing enemies on multiple fronts, Japan was hit again. On August 9th, poor weather over the primary target forced a second American bomber to divert to the city of Nagasaki. The aircraft released a second atomic payload, known as Fat Man. The explosion instantly leveled entire neighborhoods and killed thousands more. The capacity to erase an entire city was now a proven, repeatable military procedure. The dual atomic strikes, coupled with the sweeping Soviet invasion, finally forced the Japanese leadership to concede. On August 15th, Emperor Hirohito announced the surrender in a radio broadcast. For many citizens, it was the first time they had ever heard his voice. The official signing of those documents marked the definitive end to the deadliest conflict in human history. In the decades since, historians have intensely debated the necessity of these weapons. Supporters argue the strikes forced an immediate end to the conflict, preventing the massive casualties of a mainland invasion. Critics point to the devastating civilian toll, arguing that the intentional incineration of hundreds of thousands of people was unjustified, especially when diplomatic alternatives may have been available. This debate remains the central moral dilemma of modern warfare. While the events of August 1945 concluded the global war, they simultaneously triggered the start of the Cold War and a race for nuclear supremacy. The ensuing decades saw major world powers fiercely competing against each other to amass vast, world-ending stockpiles of nuclear weapons. Both the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki eventually rebuilt, yet the physical ruins deliberately left behind serve as a permanent warning about the absolute limits of unchecked technological power. 2 devastating bombs, 2 destroyed cities. One terrible moment in August that gave humanity the power to erase itself.